I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and I just got done watching the Pokémon Detective Pikachu movie, and I gotta say that I'm feeling a little bit mixed on it. Now, first and foremost, I do want to admit that this is obviously the best video game film we've ever gotten. It's true to the material, it's fun, it's a great adventure. I feel like there's just one key aspect of it that I wasn't really into, but I want to get into that with a bit. Now, first and foremost, I do need to start off and say that, admittedly, I'm not the biggest Pokemon guy. I mean, I've beat a bunch of the games, I've collected some Pokemon myself, but in general, I don't really study the universe. I kind of just play the games, put them down, and move on. So when I was going into this movie, what I wanted most was a universe that made sense. I wanted to have a nice, cohesive story, really good motivations, and just some good laughs. And in that way, it absolutely delivered. More than anything, the aspect of this movie that's extremely impressive is simply the fact that it works. This is a universe that seems to have actually existed. It has history. It has a lot of different nice ambiance that really makes it seem like this is really held together by strong glue. Now, I watch a lot of movies, and one thing that does kind of annoy me the most is when I'm watching a film and it really seems thrown together. Sometimes stuff like sci-fi or whatever, we really kind of have this sticky feeling in the back of my brain where somebody just ran through and constructed this entire world 30 minutes before they started filming. Now, this does not have that, and the way they actually make this world seem believable is with lots of little background touches. A lot of times whenever there's people walking around or talking or trying to catch that next big clue, the only thing that's really kind of crazy is you'll notice that in the background they actually just tuck hundreds of tiny little jokes. Signs that talk about past events in the Pokemon universe, people hanging out with Pokemon and doing funny things like playing catch, or at one point, one of my favorite things is there was actually a time when they were going past this television that was on, and there was a news reporter being like, "Oh man, the hero Pokemon today actually managed to extinguish the fire and no lives were lost." And it showed these like little tiny squirrels spitting a bunch of water on a huge blaze and putting it out. And then they're like, "Now we're going to be interviewing the hero of this story." And they like put the microphone in the squirrel's face and he's like, "Squirtle, Squirtle, Squirtle, Squirtle." That joke is fantastic, but it's also so good because, in my opinion, it really manages to further create a believable existence to this. Now, let's just face it, this is a kid's movie. It is directed at probably 9-year-old children, so they're not going to understand this stuff consciously, but I feel like world building is still important. Children are a lot more intelligent than you think, and I think that it really kind of shows the fact that Nintendo wanted to do this right. Now, I'll admit it, going into this, my biggest fear was that this would all feel like a giant Pokemon commercial. Now, I wasn't thinking that they'd do that, but there was a possibility that this could basically turn into, well, I don't know, it could have just turned into a huge advertisement for buy that next big Pokemon. But it's not. This is a cohesive, freestanding tale that completely works on its own. Now, I'm not going to get into any in-depth spoilers. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the vague details of this that I think really function. But let's get into the one aspect of this that I wasn't super into, which unfortunately was the main character himself. Now, I'll just say that the guy himself is actually a really good actor, and I think he manages to really play the part off the page. He's definitely probably doing the best with the material that's written. My issue is that he always seems so apprehensive. Whenever they're trying to go and do that next big thing, everybody will be down for it. Everybody is excited for this adventure except for him. Like, just as an example, so all the time he's basically wandering around for a considerable part of the movie, of course with Detective Pikachu and a friend of his who's like an investigative journalist. And both of them are totally thrilled to obviously be in a Pokemon movie. Both of these characters are constantly trying to crack the case and get evidence and grill freaking investigation stuff. They're constantly just being like, let us go. Let's freaking get hyped for this. He is constantly just slowing down and dragging his feet, and it's part of his character. It's written into the story why he's just so unenthusiastic about this quest, but simultaneously, it's kind of a drag drag to watch somebody who seems so bored inside of a movie. It just kind of broke my immersion because I wanted to actually experience the fun thrills of what it would probably be like to live in the Pokemon universe. You are in a reality where pocket monsters are walking down the freaking street, son. I mean, there are Bulbasaur and Mewtwo and everybody's just flying around having a blast. Maybe just try and smile. With that being said though, I do think that in general, the story itself is well constructed. It does try and have a couple twists and turns, and I think that it does a very good job of hiding them. Now maybe other people will have seen it coming, but me personally, when it decided to finally actually do the big reveals and be like, aha, this is what's really going on, I was sitting in the theater like, okay, that's good. You set it up, you paid it off. It makes it where it does feel like a very customary story, but also different. It doesn't really just dwell on Team Rocket. It doesn't just basically explain all the major history of the story. They don't try and explain all the different regions in detail. They're not like going, Sinnoh, Kanto. They basically just say, hey, this is the Pokemon universe. This is a town called Rhyme City where Pokemon and people live side by side. Here's why it works. Here's it working. And in that way, I think that it really makes the movie itself, at the end of the day, absolutely work. Okay, so we've heard some good and some bad, but let's go to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Pokemon Detective Pikachu an 8 out of 10. Now, I do want to say that this movie is certainly more directed towards children than adults. I definitely had a unique experience of this in that there is a movie theater chain that exists here in Texas that is basically only catering towards older audiences. Kids aren't allowed, basically. You can't have your cell phone. It is centered on people who are film buffs. So I actually saw this movie in practically an empty theater because there wasn't a lot of old people in my area who were wanting to see this. And I feel like we all got something out of it, but I feel like kids are definitely to get way more out of this than adults. If you have kids, take them to see Detective Pikachu. If you like Pokemon, go see Detective Pikachu. But if you're just a random guy who's just walking off the streets, you're probably not going to get too much out of this. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friend, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Ooh, man, that was a good experience. Now I guess we just got to get excited for the Sonic movie again. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.